Thank you for joining us on NTA International News. I'm Joseph Johnson. First, the headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari assents to 2 bills. One of the bills changes nomenclature of Nigerian Prisons Service to Nigerian Correctional Service. World Health Organization declares public health emergency on Ebola. And Central Bank of Nigeria targets 95% inclusion rate in the next 5 years. Well, the Nigerian Prison Service is now to be known and addressed as Nigerian Correctional Service. This is equal to the signing into law by President Muhammadu Buhari of the bill seeking to amend the act that establishes the Nigerian Prisons Service as amended by the Senate tagged Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019. Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters in the Senate, Itainang, briefed the press at the Presidential Villa in Abuja on this.
Correctional Services Act repeals the Nigeria Prison Service, changes the name of Nigeria Prison Service to Nigeria Correctional Service. And it has 2 faculties. The 2 faculties are the custodial service and the non-custodial service of the Nigeria Correctional Service, formerly called Nigeria Prison Service.
There are 2 main faculties of the correctional service, namely custodial service and non-custodial service.
Is intended for reformation. Persons do not stay in custody. You allow for mediation, conciliation, community service as punishment as will be ordered by the court. So it's not every offense for which somebody is sentenced to imprisonment that the person will be kept in custody or the correctional facility, otherwise still called the prison. The custody service is to take control of persons legally interned in safe, secure, and humane conditions. Is to convey persons who have been sentenced to prison to prison. Then the prison service is to, while you are there, identify causes why the person may have committed the offense and take steps at reformation.
The second act assented to by President is the Federal Universities of Agriculture Amendment No. 2 Act 2019. The act amends the Federal Universities of Agriculture Act CAPF22 law of the Federation of Nigeria to change the name of the Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi in Benue State, to Joseph Sarwan Tarka University, Makurdi. And President Muhammadu Buhari is urging Nigerians, especially victims of the various acts of criminality in the country, to exercise patience and have more faith in his administration's genuine efforts at bringing to an end the worrisome situation. This was during a sympathy visit to Bassari in Katsina State to commiserate with those adversely affected by what he called the senseless killings, maiming and destruction of properties by armed bandits in the area. State House correspondent Adam Musamba reports.
It was an emotional sight to behold as President Muhammadu Buhari empathized with the victims, relations and people of Batsari and 7 other frontline local government areas afflicted by armed banditry and other acts of criminality. He described as saddening that the consequences of such actions not only brought untold hardship but affected the socio-economic life of the people. The protection of lives and property, the president emphasized, is prime to the essence of government, and therefore his administration will not shirk its responsibility in securing Nigeria and Nigerians.
Na tabbatar muku muna kwana muna tashi da bakin ciki na ta'addanci da cin mutunci da 'yan ta'adda suke yi. Da yarda Allah za mu yi amfani da sojoji da 'yan sanda da sauran ma'aikatan gwamnati mu ga bayansu insha Allah.
President Buhari, however, enjoined the people to share all information about the bandits and other criminal elements in their areas with security operatives for hastened action. While acknowledging Katsina State government's effort at facilitating the operational capabilities of the security agencies posted to the area, the president directed NEMA to act fast and lend appropriate support to the victims in all the affected frontline local government areas. Governor Aminu Bello Masari confirmed massive deployment of security personnel and equipment to the state on the orders of the president. This, amongst other measures adopted, he said, are pointers to the seriousness with which the security concern is being addressed by the federal government.
The Katsina State government really appreciates the federal government concern over our deteriorating security situation. The recent deployment of additional security personnel and the equipment to this area has led to the drastic reduction in the frequency of the attacks. But there are still sporadic attacks with attendant kidnap and cattle rustling incidents.
This he attributed to the vastness of Ruga forest that provides cover for the criminal elements. On his part, the Emir of Katsina, Abdulmumin Kabir Usman, advised the people against reprisal attacks, which he said could lead to anarchy, and called for more patience and tolerance as security agencies tackle those against the progress of the state and indeed the nation. From Katsina, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The federal government says the nation's march to greatness is just a matter of time as it is keeping with the implementation of the next level agenda. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while inaugurating one of the road projects executed under the restoration agenda of the Matsari administration in Katsina State. Details of this report will be brought to you in a subsequent newscast. Now, it is a known fact that apart from absorbing a large portion of workers' income, housing plays a major role in the social, political and economic discourse of most societies. This is because housing has been known to be a major component of creating stable and healthy communities. It is against this background that the federal government, Staff Housing Loans Board and Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria are strengthening ties towards the provision of affordable housing for public servants in Nigeria. Adebola Brooks-Lynn Sunday has the report.
For Florence Adewale, a civil servant, the negative attitude of her landlord became a motivational factor for her to own her home through a housing cooperative system.
From Kefi to Abuja every day is not always easy, it's stressful, but at least we are comfortable that nobody is sending us text message or flashing us that our house rent has expired.
Kingsley David is still living in a rented apartment. He cannot wait to have a house of his own.
Housing in Abuja is something else. A lot of civil servants save from January to December just to pay only rent. What about other necessities?
The Nigerian government year on year have been putting in place modalities to meet the housing needs of the citizenry, which statistics say is about 17 million in deficits. Led by the Executive Secretary, Hannatu Fika, top management staff of the Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board are in the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria to boost the synergy between the two sister agencies of government in the housing sector.
We are aware of the challenges that public servants go through when December comes. Public servant has nothing in his pockets and then the landlords come calling.
Recapitalization of the housing sector and using affordable housing as a motivational tool are some of the talking points at the meeting.
Creation of mortgages, you have to pay equity of 10%, you have to pay a lot of other charges. With the rent to own, you just go in as a tenant and then start paying rent either monthly or quarterly or even annually. And that becomes your payment of the house.
So having a house is tied to motivation, is tied to job satisfaction.
This partnership is expected to meet the housing need of Florence Adewale, Kingsley David and their likes, and at the same time enable them to contribute more to national development. Adebola Brooks-Lynn Sunday, NTA News.
Now let's turn our attention to Makkah because as pilgrims conclude the last stages of the annual Hajj rites, Speaker House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila urged them to imbibe the lessons of the religious pilgrimage, which is total submission to the will of Almighty Allah. He also called on Nigerians to respect constituted authorities for the country to attain set targets. Lami Ali reports that the Speaker, alongside some members of the House of Representatives on pilgrimage in Makkah, offered prayers for Nigeria.
The Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, emphasized that all holy books contain morals on all facets of human life, stressing that it is important for all people of faith to practice such teachings.
Religion is a leveler. There is no high, there is no mighty. We are all one before the eyes of God.
Nigeria, he added, will achieve peace, prosperity and progress in unity with intensified prayers.
Let us continue to pray. You cannot exist in life without prayers. No country can survive without prayers. We all have our issues, no matter what part of the world you are. That's what life is all about. We have issues, but prayers will surmount everything.
In another development, the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria has, during an inspection visit to pilgrims from states at their various tents in Mina, announced that airlift of pilgrims back to Nigeria will commence on the 17th of August 2019. Pilgrims from across the world are at the moment engaged in the concluding stages of the annual religious pilgrimage. In Makkah, Saudi Arabia, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Back home, another set of people living with disability have bidded farewell to daily struggle to prove that there is actually ability in disability. Ruth Ogwele reports that the success is coming from the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development.
A UN report indicates that about 29.7 million out of the 15% of the world's population living with disability are said to be in Nigeria. Until recently, when President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Disability Act, there has been clamor for the protection of their rights and inclusion. Daniel Isue is a visually impaired person who lost his sight at age 14 and has been a civil servant for 5 years. Lack of aid to make his work easier has, however, affected his productivity.
The system is not friendly to us. Now, the things we need to work are not being provided for us.
Now, the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development is making this dream a reality by providing empowerment tools for persons living with disability as a way of ending social insecurity amongst them and enable them make an impact in society.
We'll continue to do all we can to ensure that everybody is carried along, everybody is provided needed support as much as we can, so that people are self-sufficient and people will contribute to Nigeria's economic, socio-economic growth.
These items presented, the beneficiaries believe, will go a long way for better livelihood.
This guy's stick, if you can see, the one that I'm using before is so old and looks somehow. But this one, it will be good to me for the mobility.
And government have proved to me that there is hope. There is ability in disability.
That they have tried a lot to make this one to elevate me, to build me more.
It is the expectation from the ministry that the beneficiaries will justify the gesture by making the desired impact. In Abuja, Ruth Aguela, NTA News.
Meanwhile, following the resurgence of the Ebola virus disease in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the World Health Organization (WHO) has declared the outbreak as a public health emergency in line with international health regulations. Consequently, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority (NCAA) has directed all airline operators, especially airlines operating regional and international flights into the country, to exercise high level of vigilance. The NCAA Director General Mukhtar Usman, in a statement, also directs all airline pilots to report to air traffic controllers any suspected case of communicable disease on board their flights for port health services to verify and handle appropriately. You're still watching NTA International News. Let's just take some messages now. We're back shortly. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC has arraigned Abdullahi Babalele and Uyekben Giwa Osage, both associates of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, before Justice Nicholas Owebo of the Federal High Court, Lagos. They were charged for money laundering to the tune of $140,000 and $2 million respectively. Agbolore Ogbara has the report.
The EFCC had filed a 3-count charge against a legal practitioner, Uyekben Giwa Osage, for allegedly laundering $2 million meant for the 2019 general election. Atiku's son-in-law, Abdullahi Babalele, was also arraigned before Justice Nicholas Owebo on a 2-count charge with a sum of $140,000. The duo pleaded not guilty of all the allegations. The defense counsels, Ahmed Raji SAN and Mike Ozekome SAN, asked the court to grant them bail on the ground of self-recognizance and on liberal terms. The prosecution counsel, Rotimi Oyedepo, on the other hand, said he got the information on the bail application late and requested for more time to file the counter affidavit on the case. The defense counsel, Ahmed Raji SAN, said since the case is a bailable offense, the court should grant the bail applications.
If at the end of the day they're just going to be fined, why do you have to imprison them from now on? And they are not accusing them of stealing money. It's just mere infraction of financial regulations.
We have informed the court that we have our facts that we want to depose to in counter affidavit, so in opposition to the application for bail. But the discretion whether or not to grant is within my lord.
Abdullahi Babalele was arrested by the EFCC in February this year on allegation of vote buying and placed on administrative bail while investigations continue. Justice Owebo, however, gave a ruling on adjournment of motion for bail and hearing for the 15th of August in Lagos. Agbolore Ogbara, NT News.
Still staying in Lagos, in order to have professionally responsive officers in the discharge of their constitutional roles, the Nigerian Army 81 Division has flagged off this year's combat proficiency competition in Lagos. Rotimi Oluwagbemi reports.
For the Nigerian Army to sustain its victory over insurgency and other forms of criminality, the need for training and capacity building cannot be overemphasized. The combat proficiency competition, according to Logistics Command, is aimed at improving the leadership qualities of the combating officers and to enhance their professional competence.
Required for them to discharge their duties professionally in line with the vision of Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General T.Y. Buratai. It promises to foster team spirit among the officers and to enhance their professional competence. It will also grill the competitors on 2.4-kilometer endurance run and obstacle crossing. Other aspects of the competition are map reading, communication skills, and combat swimming.
The combat competition is featuring weapon handling, shooting, stripping and assembling of rifles, tug of war, among others. 4 formations of the Nigerian Army are participating in the one-week competition. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Let's head straight to business now. Central Bank of Nigeria targets 95% inclusion rate by 2024. Olayinka Ojo has more on business news.
Welcome to Business News. Nigeria has reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to the production adjustments agreed upon under the Declaration of Cooperation between member countries of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and non-OPEC countries at the last ministerial meeting of what is known as OPEC Plus, held on July 2nd, 2019 in Vienna, Austria. Representative on the OPEC Economic Commission Board and Group Managing Director, Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Mele Kyari disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday in Abuja. Kyari says Nigeria is totally committed to full compliance with the agreement reached by the parties of the DOC. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and Chairman of the National Financial Inclusion Steering Committee, Godwin Emefiele, has set a target of 95% financial inclusion rate for Nigeria by 2024. The plan is part of commitment to further enhance the level of financial inclusion in the country and by implication sustain inclusive economic growth. Let's now see how the equities market fared this Wednesday. And that's it on the segment of the news. I am Olayinka Ojo.
And on the foreign scene, the electoral umpire in Tunisia has disqualified 71 candidates in preparation for next month's presidential election. For more on this and other trending stories, over now to Obiageli Ugoke.
Burundi says from next week, anyone caught using plastic bags will be punished, bringing forward a deadline to phase them out by 6 months. The government banned their use last August, allowing an 18-month period for consumers and retailers to finish their stock. But Environment Minister Diogaide Rurema said he has taken the decision to impose the ban from 22nd August as plastic bags were still being used so widely. The minister said locally produced environmental-friendly bags should be used instead. The United Nations Environment Programme says 63 countries around the world have taken measures against the use of plastic bags. And from Tunisia comes the report that the country's electoral commission says on Wednesday it has approved 26 candidates, including 2 women, for next month's presidential election, rejecting 71 other applicants. The September 15th vote follows the death of Beji Caid Essebsi, aged 92, last month, the first president to be democratically elected in Tunisia after the popular uprising of 2011. In Greek, hundreds of villages have been evacuated as firefighters battle the flames in Evia, the country's second biggest island. The blaze, which covered large areas of the island, has generated clouds of smoke that have reached Athens 70 miles away. Obiageli Ugweke, NTA News.
In sports, the UEFA